She likes doing that.
Yeah,
She
she can.
she's,
I'd like to call this a regular business, council meeting to order, to use the fire department, regular council meeting to order, 1800 hours, June 9th, 2022. First item would be roll call. Everybody is in chambers. Second, we'll have pledge of allegiance and the invocation. If Councilman Kester will lead us in the pledge, and Mr. Hollingsworth will do our invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Oh Heavenly Father, we come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we gather together in your name to conduct the business of Holbrook for its citizens. We pray for guidance in this matter at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with a spirit of joy and enthusiasm. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. Help us to work together and encourage each other to excellence. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, sir. Item number 4, consent agenda, May 26, 2022 meeting minutes. Chair will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of the May 26th, 2020 council meeting.
Second.
Have a motion second. Do we have any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, motion passes. Item 5, call to the public for non-agenda items.
There are 2.
Okay. Guess no matter which one. Mike, sample?
So good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm just here tonight to give an update on the Navajo County Fair events that are going on and taking place. If you haven't driven by there pretty much every weekend, we do have stuff going on every weekend this year. We have, I think, one opening in November, and that's it for the whole year. Last weekend we had a rodeo on Sunday, a team roping on Saturday. Memorial weekend we had a Sailor livestock show. Coming weekends we have events as well. We have a big event coming starting July 4th with our Route 66 livestock camp all week, and then the show Friday and Saturday. Big events, busy. So for our fair, the September dates this year are September 14th through the 17th. We'll invite our city officials again to our opening ceremonies like we normally do on Wednesday. The theme this year is country fans and cattle brands. So hopefully it'll be a lot of fun again. Our regular events, Demolition Derby on Thursday night, rodeo Friday, Saturday nights, and Little Buckaroo on Saturday day. But again, busy, a lot of events, bringing a lot of outside people to our community. And like I said, if you drive by on a weekend, you'll see a lot of people there. So again, just wanted to give you an update on what's going on, and thank you again for all the support that you've given us continuously over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Questions you might have or anything?
Do you have any questions of him? Keep up the good work. You guys are doing an excellent job.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Next one we have is Arsenio Pacheco.
Good evening, I'm Arsenia Pacheco. Let me start off with saying that I am proud to say that Holbrook is my home and has been since 2008. Although I was born and raised in Winslow, I have been asked many times why I stayed in Holbrook when I'm from Winslow. And that's a question that's easy for me to answer. Quite frankly, because I love Holbrook. I would not want to raise my kids anywhere else. I feel safe here. We do not have the high rate of crime that is evident with the surrounding areas. Everyone looks out for each other, whether it's our neighbors, our teachers, our police officers, even our friends and coworkers. We have a wonderful school system, amazing teachers, and a caring and dedicated police department. even a volunteer fire department that consists of those who genuinely care with every bit of their heart and soul, who for years have held and managed a successful 4th of July Fireman's Barbecue and Fireworks Show, not to mention the even better tight-knit community. With our very own Chamber of Commerce, who put forth so much time and effort and never giving up on trying to organize events in our town. I do take pride in living here. Although I cannot speak for everyone, it's getting harder and harder to justify why. When you're asked, what's so great about Holbrook? It's going to end up a ghost town. It looks deserted for being right off the major interstate and connecting highway. Holbrook has nothing going for themselves anymore, just to mention a few, and lately it's getting hard. It's starting to feel that way. God forbid it happens. If we as a small town continue to allow it, it will. I drive the main roads of Hopi and Navajo every single day, and every single day I see the same issues. It's time to address those. And I know I speak not just for me, but for those who love and genuinely care about Holbrook as well. There are so many properties on the main roads alone, and those are the first buildings you see when you pull off the exit. Not to mention the foul smell of sitting water that hits you at certain times of the year. You pull into town right past our beautiful rest area and dog park, but you have to drive past the couple blocks down with your eyes closed and pretend you don't see the once frequently used and maintained businesses and buildings that are now deteriorating and overcome with weeds. Or the once sought after hotels with the luxury of an outdoor pool that is now fenced off, falling down, deteriorating, and honestly becoming nothing more than an eyesore, or even a cushy home for all sorts of critters. When is the last time someone checked that area? Do we know that it's empty and vacant, or even free of illegal activity? Which most of the buildings and lots that are in this condition are owned by people and businesses who live nowhere near Holbrook. Just because they don't live here, they are still responsible for the buildings in which they own. But who's holding them accountable? Why is it that the park on Spurlock is nicely maintained by a local citizen who owns the property, but the one here behind Speedway looks as if it has not been touched in years, with the unsightly view of overgrown weeds? They are not maintained by city employees because they are both privately owned, therefore the property owner's responsibility. I see so many comments and complaints online, for instance, the social media, that have general conversation with neighbors in the area while sitting at a Little League game, whether it's kids playing or adults. It always comes up in conversation, most recently about the Plainsman sign. Everyone wants to point fingers, or really it's nobody's fault but our own. And when I say our own, I mean us as residents of Holbrook. Do we even have a historical preservation committee? Do we have a grant writer to look and submit for grants to better and beautify our town? Or at least preserve what little history we have left? I did see that there was mention of the bucket of Blood Street and repairing and stabilizing the buildings. That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Checker. Okay, moving on to call to the public for agenda items.
There are none.
There are none. Moving on to number 7. 7A, new business, discussion and possible action, public hearing, fiscal year 2023 primary tax levy. This time we will open the chamber up to public hearing for anybody that has questions on the tax levy. Nobody? Okay, at this time I will close the public hearing and we will move on to item B. Ordinance 22-02. An ordinance of the City of Holbrook, Arizona, levying the primary property tax upon the assessed valuation of property located within the city subject to taxation for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2023, whereas 2019 residents of the City of Holbrook passed primary property tax, and whereas the City Council has the authority to levy and collect the taxes for general expenses of the city and where lawful municipal purposes of the city charter, section 6.02A, and whereas a public hearing was held on June 9th, 2022 to discuss the budget, and whereas pursuant to state law, an ordinance levying taxes is required to be adopted no later than the third Monday in August. Whereas Navajo County is the assessing and collecting authority for the City of Holbrook. Now therefore be it ordained by the Mayor and the Council of the City of Holbrook, Section 1, there is hereby levied a property tax rate of 0.4854 on each $100 valuation of all property located within the corporate limits of the City of Holbrook, except such property as be exempt by law for taxation. The tax rate sufficient to raise the amount of money, or the amount of $106,140 as required in the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Section 2, per state law, the ordinance shall become effective upon adoption. Section 3, the city clerk is directed to transmit a certified copy of this ordinance to the county assessor and the board of supervisors of Navajo County, Arizona. Passed and adopted by the mayor, city of Holbrook, council, city of Holbrook on this 23rd day of June, 2022.
This is the first reading.
Okay. Being an ordinance,
First reading. This is first reading.
Oh, this is the first reading, that's right. So, no action required. Okay, now we will move on to Section C, public hearing, fiscal year final budget 2023. If anybody has any questions on the budget at this time, you'd like to stand up, voice any opinion. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing for the fiscal year 2023 final budget and move on to the resolution 22-05. The resolution of the mayor and the city council of the city of Holbrook, Navajo County, Arizona, adopting the final budget for the city of Holbrook for fiscal year 2022-2023. Whereas by resolution 2022-02, the mayor and the city council passed and adopted the tentative budget for the city of Holbrook fiscal year 2022-2023. And whereas following due public notice, the mayor and the council held a public hearing on June 9th, at which meeting any taxpayer could appear and be heard in favor of, or against any of the proposed expenditures or expenses or tax levies. And whereas expenditures do not exceed the spending limitations set forth by Article, what is that? I guess it's 6, Section 20 of the Arizona State Constitution.
Article 9.
Article 9. Not good with Roman numerals. Therefore, be it resolved by the mayor and the city council of the city of Holbrook that the estimates of revenues and expenditures as shown on the accompanying schedule are adopted by final budget of the city of Holbrook, Navajo County, Arizona for fiscal year 2022-2023. Passed and adopted by the mayor and city council of the city of Holbrook this 9th day of June, 2022. Now, this is a final, it's our first reading, right? We got to vote on this.
So I make a motion that we adopt resolution 22-05.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any comments or concerns, Vice Mayor?
I have no concerns with the budget. I would just like to note that the budget totals $14,157,293 million for the fiscal year 2023.
Thank you. Councilman Moore?
I'm a visual primate, so I wanted to just point out two graphs that I think stuck out to me. That is on A5, the lodger's tax revenue. This is a good indicator of money that's coming into our community from folks outside of the community. So unlike the city sales tax, which is the next page, that incorporates those of us who live here and spending money at Safeway. The lodger's tax is an interesting marker of who's coming here and spending money here, who's not from here, or really from the area. And so fiscal year 20 saw a pretty dramatic decrease for obvious reasons, mostly which, of course, are COVID. But then 21 and 22 we're bouncing back, not quite doubling what we were in 19. And that's a really good indicator that people are still coming here, spending money here, going to our restaurants, going to more importantly to this specific fund, our hotels, we got new hotel coming in, or that had come in was that 19 or right before 20? And so yeah, I think that's a really interesting indicator. And then of course, one thing we've been really focusing on too is on B4, the public safety personnel retirement system. This is the unfunded liabilities in tier 1 and 2, wherein you see an inflection point in 2019 where actually that line is going down. We want that line to keep going down, and it hasn't been going down really ever, at least noticeably, throughout the reporting period here, which is 2012. So we're paying down debt that we owe for our retirement, our public safety retirement, and that is something that we haven't been able to do before, primarily because now we're finally into the black. We're getting money into the bank to then spend and invest in the community, spend and invest in retirement, and I'm really excited about some of the projects and expenditures that we're looking forward to, and I want to thank the city manager for a really nice, put together budget and some goals that are in place. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions on that?
Yeah, I just want to thank city manager for putting together such an understandable budget for us. And I know this was placed on at least social network or made known to the public, and so they've had a chance to look at it, and nobody has come in to comment about it. So you know, this is something that I see as very, very good here. Thank you.
Anybody else? Just make a side note for anybody that's interested in viewing the budget. It can be viewed at City Hall, at the library, or if you go online to holbrookaz.gov, bring that up, go to the finance section, departments, go to finance, and go to documents and finance. The whole budget is online. It can be viewed there.
It's very transparent.
Yes.
It's easy to understand. You don't need to have a degree in accounting to understand it. Any citizen could readily understand this budget and the graphs.
And just to touch on what Adam was saying about the PSPRS, correct me if I'm wrong, Ted, you've budgeted now to where we're putting approximately an additional $600,000 into the police department to help pay off this unfunded liability?
That's correct. So the goal is to pay off the unfunded liability within 10 years.
And hopefully at that pace, we should be able to do it sooner?
Yes, that's right.
If all works out.
That's right.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second on resolution 22-05. All in favor?
We need a roll call.
Oh, we need a roll call, that's right.
Councilmember Dixon,
Aye.
Councilmember Kester,
Aye.
Councilmember Marsh,
Aye.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Payne. Aye. Councilmember Wolford,
Aye.
and Mayor Young.
Aye. Motion passed. Okay, we will move on to summary of current events. It seems like I'm always the one that opens up with condolences to families. I'm gonna mention a few names, and I'll let a few other councilmen speak on, they know the families better than I do. One that people may not know is, I can't think of her last name, Nellie. She is Janet Tremaine's mother. She was a longtime resident here. She passed away. Also, most everybody's heard of the tragedy with Shim Bowman, and I learned today also that Martha Blosser passed away. So my condolences to all these people, and I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. Arsenio, appreciate your comments. Mike, thank you. Other than that, I've been working with the city manager over at the park. We're trying to get some of the benches over there that were destroyed. We kind of robbed from one and rebuilt a good one that we can put over at the swimming pool. We've got new picnic benches and stuff coming in. They got the dugout material in. They should be putting that up here pretty quick. So things are happening there. We should be starting on renovations at the park before too long. We passed the matching for the airport, so that's coming here in the near future. So there's a lot of things happening. May not see it. We did, the city crews did end up, finishing up with the 2 properties up on Desert View, the 2 trailers that were burnt out. We've got all those cleaned up, so things are starting to happen. It's just, it takes time, folks. We gotta have the money, we gotta have the time to get it done, so we're working on it. It's not like we don't hear you. Okay, moving on, Vice Mayor Payne.
Well, my condolences also to the families that you mentioned, but then also to the Jasper family.
Oh, I forgot
We
Paul
lost
Jasper as
Paul
well.
recently also. It seemed like it was a pretty rough week,
Mm-hmm.
so, we do feel for you all. And I also would like to thank the city staff because the cemetery is really coming along now. And it's looking better than it has in quite a while. I listened to your comments on the properties, and we're well aware of the problems. And one of the major problems with the out-of-town owners is the fact that we have to go through court with so many of them. And that isn't a quick process, but we are working with several of them. And you know, even when we get those, it's still hard to enforce them. We can put a lien on it, but unless we want to invest our money to do it, and we have many times, but it's something we are working on. It's not for lack of thought about it. And I would encourage, because we all drive around town to see what's going on and what's being done. And I know that there's a lot of absentee landlords and absentee ownership that causes some of these major blights, especially on the main streets. And that looks really bad. But some of our neighborhoods look pretty bad too, and there's people living there. And I would encourage the citizens to, if you can, clean up your own place. If you can't, help your neighbor. Or, you know, hopefully you can help your family or your neighbor or your friends. I'm grateful that I could hire somebody to come take care of my lawn. Took care of it myself for years. I'm no longer able to do that. I know that there's a lot of other people that can't. So we just need to have some compassion and reach out and help when we can. And I know a lot of people already do that, and I would encourage more to try it. It'll make you feel pretty good too. So thanks in advance, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilman Dixon.
Yeah, a couple things. Vice Mayor, thank you for that. I couldn't have said it better. It is a process to abate these properties that are run down, and it's sometimes a long legal process. It's just, we can't just go and bulldoze somebody's property. We would be in trouble for that. In the Desert View properties are 2 of those that the city has been working on, and they both look very nice. It's a couple of those things that we have done, and I didn't hear that mentioned except by council today. And then we have an election year this year. The primary is August 2nd, general is November 8th. My personal recommendation is that people go into the voting places and vote in person and by a paper ballot. Some of the other methods have been wrought with some issues, some problems. Or going in if you want to vote early to the county. That's another way that is very secure, but some other ways have been shown to not be secure. So, thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Marsh.
I don't have to tell anybody it's hot. We're in the position of getting hotter before we get wetter. So check on your neighbors, both young and not so young. You know, if somebody's needing some help, please step in and, of course, take advantage of our pool and splash pad because that's what they're there for. So just watch out for each other.
And your animals.
And your animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Nielsen.
Well, I've been a T-ball coach this year, and I would like to thank Brian and Peggy Reed for the excellent job they have done this year and last year organizing baseball in our community, where hundreds of kids have been able to participate and get a little bit better and be part of a team. I'd also like to give my condolences to the Sam and Marion Bowman family over the loss of their son Shem in that tragic accident. His funeral has been moved from the LDS Stake Center, because it's not big enough, to the auditorium, the George Gardner Auditorium, 11 o'clock on Saturday. So if you're interested in, and also one of my neighbors called me, Robin Gonzalez called me and said, well, Shem ran our pool 2 or 3 summers, and he was a lifeguard since he was like a sophomore in high school. She asked, would it be appropriate for us to name the pool after him? Kind of like how we named the park after Mike Odell. Something for us to consider. Also, I know there's a lot of discussion about the rundown area of our community, but I think we should go on the positive. I think we should reward people that year after year their home and their yard is a masterpiece, and somehow reorganize the yard of the month that we had in the times past, and maybe put their picture of their place in and you know, get some competition, kind of like what we do at Christmas, the fancy lights on people's house, and we give an award and show that in the paper. Maybe we could do that as well. Applaud people for the job they're doing, the positive things they're doing. And I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wolford.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Ms. Pachinko for coming. It's nice to see the public coming in and hearing your concerns about the community, because it's a concern that this whole community has. And we are seeing progress. It's just slow, again, doing it legally and correctly to address them issues. So, but appreciate you coming out and addressing the council. On that note with Mike, yeah, also to include perhaps business of the month, you know, in this award, you know, recognizing, especially on our Main Street, you know, get back to American Main Street and award these businesses who do that.
Are you talking about the beautification stuff?
Yeah, the beautification stuff. Yeah, because we've got the centennial for the Route 66 coming up here in a couple of years, and gonna start seeing them travelers coming through. So it's just something to look forward to in the near future. Again, I'd like to give the condolences and prayers and thoughts out to the Bowman family. I know there's a lot of siblings in that family, and young, very young. But also let it be a reminder right now with this drought. A lot of our kids and all of us in this community, Winslow, around the surrounding communities, have visited Zevlon on many occasions. I remember growing up, and that was our high school graduation party. The water levels are so low, and we just got to remind ourselves of being aware of the situations, the environment, especially if we know our kids are going to be going out there during the summertime and stuff, that be aware of that. Also, a longtime resident, Bernice Daniel Gillespie, just lost her first and oldest grandson, Timothy Gillespie Duran, or actually, yeah, Gillespie, Timothy Gillespie, this morning. So, thoughts and prayers going out to the Cerna family, James and Cindy Cerna, and Bernice. And then again, today was a fallen officer from White River. His procession from Taylor to White River. Again, sad that another fallen officer to don't stop. It's just scary things happening out there, so, we gotta watch out after them like they watch out after us. So keep them in our prayers. So I believe, let's see, we've got Flag Day coming up. The Elks puts on a very good, presentation of the American flag. And they hold it at the courthouse, at the Navajo County Courthouse. And I believe it starts at 12 o'clock. Again, they do a really nice presentation, going all the way back to 1776 with, our first American flag up to today. And so, come on out and check it out.
Is that on the 14th?
That is on the 12th.
12th.
June 12th, coming up here.
Is that on Sunday?
Uh-huh.
But Flag Day's on the 14th, right?
Right, Flag
Okay.
Day's on the 14th, but they do it, usually try and get the public where
So
it's hard to get away from work and stuff like that.
Okay.
So they do it on Sunday. And then we've got, June 22nd, we have our movie, drive-in movie at the fairgrounds, $5 per car. And I believe they're showing what,
Goonies.
what is it, Goonies? I haven't seen it. See? I was
You
out
haven't
to
seen
sea when that
Goonies?
came
Come
out.
on.
Well, I was Hayes Grand away, so yeah, I will be there. Plus they have vendors and everything out there, so it's pretty cool. They do it, I think, once a month, so this next one is coming up on June 22nd, so hope to see a lot of the public out there at the fairgrounds and join us. And I believe I've said enough.
Thank you, Councilman. Birthday boy, Councilman Castor.
The old guy. My condolences go out to the families that have lost. They're our neighbors, they're our friends. They're a part of our community. I'd like to thank, a shout out to Mike and his team for what they do at the fairgrounds. Great programs, keep going. I took my grandson down. He didn't have to stay very long because it was a little hot for him, but he enjoyed the show. And if you haven't ever gone to one of those livestock things, go. It's very interesting. You'll see how hard those kids work to keep them animals clean. And I mean, you put a goat and you put it there and you stand him up and you got his legs standing as stiff as can be, and you think that's a lot of work. And if you haven't ever seen a cow, or I should say a steer, that one of those 4-H people have put on, or these kids in our community, they are a pretty animal. They might not look so pretty out in the field, but they are a beautiful animal. Those kids take good care of them, spend a lot of money and a lot of time. Go see them. Thank you, Mike, and your crew for what you do.
Thank you, Councilman. City Manager.
Okay, the cemetery wall has been repaired. Thank you, staff, for getting that work done. As Vice Mayor mentioned, the guys are doing a great job on the cemetery these days. We had some of the trees trimmed, you may have noticed, and the trimming crew will be coming back to finish up the project. Then in the future, we'll continue to use them. Trees really haven't been taken care of. For example, we've got some diseased trees up there, we've got some insects that are up there, and on an annual basis, we'll try to get them in here, spray the trees and things like that, so we can take a little bit better care of those trees. The remaining 2 bleachers at Hunt Park, one of them has been finished, and the other one should be finished next week. Again, we replaced all the bleachers at the various, in Hunt Park and also at the park over by the cemetery with new bleachers, and thank the guys for getting those together. As the mayor mentioned, the new dugouts have arrived, so our staff will be working on installing those new dugouts. The street department is cleaning ditches in preparation of monsoon season, just around the corner. Once they get that done, they'll get back to taking care of the pop sidewalks that you see around town. We've ordered some new lounge chairs for the splash pad. Kids are a little bit hard on those, so we've got another dozen of those coming on in. As was mentioned, second trailer up on Desert View has been cleaned up as part of code enforcement. The property owner had cleaned up most of the site, hadn't finished with the metal frame and some of the metal siding. As part of code enforcement, our guys went up there and finished cleaning up the property. Again, well done. I want to mention, I'm going to add, I didn't have this in here, but a refresher, as I've talked about on several occasions, the city of Holbrook is part of the $600,000 Brownfield grant. The Brownfield grant is for the properties along Hopi and Navajo. 12 years ago, we had all those properties added to a list. We have put a new list together of all of the vacant properties along Navajo and Hopi. The next stage in the process, as a matter of fact, it's ironic, I'll be working at it tomorrow, is to take from that list of all these properties and maybe get half a dozen or so of those high properties, high value properties, or of high concern properties, provide those names of the owners of those properties to Stantec, who's administering the Brownfield grant that we're part of, and take the next step. He'll contact the property owners talking about doing an assessment on those Brownfield grants. So again, we are working on this, and I'm gonna have to tell you something. It's funny, when Stantec was in here, he's a real expert on Brownfield grants, and we were talking about how long it takes. I did the same thing down south, cleaned up the community, cleaned up a number of the old vacant properties. He said the average property that you clean up takes 10 years. Folks just don't understand. You just don't go in there and bulldoze the property. It takes a long time to get it done. And as a refresher, you know, we cleaned up the Knights Inn. We went to court for over $70,000 to clean up the Knights Inn. We lost, and we lost the $70,000. So the city really can't afford to go around cleaning up all these properties. But what we can do is do something like this Brownfield grant, which is the start of the process. The Brownfield grant is a positive step. We contact the property owners. We ask the property owners if they'd like to participate in this assessment. Once that assessment is complete, it gives them opportunity to access other grants to take care of their property. But again, all this takes a long time. It takes years. This particular grant here is a 3-year process. That's just to administer the grant. That's just for the assessment phase. Then after that, there are other grants and there are other processes. Again, the gentleman who administers the grant, the average property cleanup takes 10 years. It really takes a long time. Okey doke. Next, some code enforcement also took place on Mariana. There were numerous furniture items and trash. I want to thank staff also for employing code enforcement to get that particular site cleaned up. I want to say this. Our goal is not to embarrass people, so you'll notice I'm not mentioning who these particular individuals are. A couple of properties on Desert View, a property over on Mariana. Our goal is to help folks. And sometimes, you know, sometimes it's really easy to characterize people as the out of state or who doesn't care. A lot of these people that have these properties, some of these properties are investments. They're depending on these properties for investment. The property burns down, or property's abandoned, or they can't afford to keep it up. They don't have that money available to them anymore for retirement. So it's not always the bad guys from out of town that don't care. There are extenuating circumstances. And one of these properties, I won't mention which one of them, we work very closely with the property owner. The property owner does not have much money. The property owner did not finish cleaning up the site because she didn't want to. She didn't finish cleaning up the site because she didn't have the resources to clean up the site. We went in there and helped. And that's the perspective that we try to take. How can we be helpful? How can we help people? And I want to say this, you know, we're also paying the price, sorry, I don't know how else to say it, for sins of the past. In the past, things haven't been handled very well. And some of these property owners have not been treated very well, and they're still angry about how they've been treated in the past. And it takes some time to reestablish a new relationship and explain to them that we're not going to do things the way things were done in the past. We're here to help. The Brownfield Assessment Grant is an example of that. How can we help you clean up your property? Not how can we take you to court. If we have to, we do that, like we did with the Knights Inn, and we lost again on the Knights Inn. But taking that heavy-handed approach is a last resort. The first thing that you want to do is to try to help, and that's what we do. And it pays off, and it works. It's an effective tool, but it takes some time. All right, enough of that. Next on the agenda is something exciting. APS was directed to form a work group to discuss a future community solar program. The program would allow utility customers to participate in solar without having to install solar panels on their homes or businesses. I think it's a great idea. If you want to get involved with it, maybe you can't necessarily put a solar panel on your business or in your home, but this is a program that they're looking into. And I want to thank Council Member Nielsen, who has graciously agreed to participate in this group, and I'm sure he'll keep us posted on the progress of this community solar program. Thank you, Council Member. And then finally, I attended the, as you know, member of the Economic Development Council. I learned that there are some additional federal grant opportunities that are being worked on. It's in the process, the bill hasn't been passed yet. I'll keep you apprised of the situation and see, should the bill pass, what further grant opportunities we may have as a result of this new program. Then finally, we have accessed lots of grants. And we've been able to do a lot with the various grants that are out there. It takes a lot of work, but you know, we're really fortunate to have had these various grants. One of the things that Councilmember Marsh talked about was some of the exciting programs that we got going, and one of those is we're completely redoing all of our parks. We're completely redoing all of our parks, everything. Basketball courts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, trails, playground equipment, you name it, it's all gonna be replaced, and all that's gonna be replaced with grant dollars. That's really exciting. And that's economic development. That's something that these new businesses that'll be locating in our area are gonna be interested in. What's the housing like? What are the schools like? What are your playgrounds like? And so forth. And we're working on getting all that fixed up in preparation for the literally thousands of individuals that will be coming to our community to work on the solar panels, on the wind turbines. We're talking about quite a few individuals that'll be coming to our community. Out of that, there'll be people that'll be here permanently. Out of that, there'll be people that look at our community and decide that they want to locate here. They think it's a nice community. They came here to put in solar panels or put in the wind farms, and they'll want to locate to our community. So a lot of work is going into really rejuvenating our community, and the idea that somehow our community is falling apart or it's going down is very far from the truth. There are businesses that are wanting to locate here from the valley. It's getting very expensive in the valley. There are businesses that want to locate here from the Flagstaff area and that part of the state because it's very costly over there. So as I've said in the past, Holbrook is on the map now. We will see significant transformation of our community. It's happening. They're coming here, they want to come here, they're locating their businesses here, they're talking to us about locating here. So Holbrook is in for a complete transformation as a result of all these businesses that will be locating in our community. The good news is it's not talk like Potash was. Here's Potash, it didn't come. These are businesses that will be locating here. For example, wind farm, working with the Apache Railway over here to, they're gonna make the turning radius larger in order to locate the new wind turbine blades. These are new generation blades, much larger than the old ones. They can't make the turn radius there. And I've been talking to the railroad about what their plans are. I already have the plans. That's not, we're hoping they're coming, we're getting the railroad ready for these wind turbines that are coming in here. 300 to 500 workers to put in just those wind turbines. 300 to 500 workers to put in one solar farm. 300 to 500 workers to put in another solar farm. And then the associated employees that will be here long term. So significant transformation is going to be taking place in this community, and we've been preparing for it. The budget is an example of that. When I got here, the funds were in the hole. We were robbing Peter to pay Paul. We were taking money out of the general fund. We were putting money into the funds that weren't earning enough money. We didn't have money for paying raises. We didn't have money to take care of capital equipment. We didn't have money to buy capital equipment. This year, we are putting money in the bank in each one of the funds. We're giving all of our employees raises, and we're buying capital equipment. This is a good budget. We've taken the turn from a community in decline to the community that's going to be going in advance. Mayor, Council, that's all I had. Thank you.
And just a note, you know, been able to get this accomplished even through the pandemic for the past 2.5 years. You know, so it's not like we haven't been doing anything. Ted, on the tax levy, you and I talked about the
Sure.
figures. Would you give us the figures on that?
Yeah, so, you know, there's how it is in a small town, oftentimes rumors that are complete falsehood. So, for example, in fiscal year 2021, the tax levy was 0.5022. In fiscal year 2022, it decreased, taxes decreased to 0.4866. In fiscal year 23, taxes decreased to 0.4854. So the voters voted on this tax increase, 50,000 for the police, 50,000 for the fire, but every year, your taxes have decreased in the city of Holbrook. And by the way, those taxes are $106,000, around 1% of our budget. Again, the voters voted on it. Council, you didn't do it. The voters said, we want to have a property tax. We want this money to go to the police department and the money to go to the fire department.
May I also ask him something? May I ask him something?
Yes, go ahead.
On the brownfield grants, they have changed over the last 25 years or so? I remember when they first came out, they were strictly used, at least here in Holbrook, to take out old gas tanks.
Yeah, no,
And now
no,
it's- the
no.
focus is not on the gas stations
No, no,
anymore.
no, it's very broad. Schools and churches are in there. It's funny, we were having a conversation, Stan Tech had done a presentation at our EDC, and I made a note when he mentioned churches, as I was thinking about the church down the road. No, in Brownfield, and I can't remember the figure, something like, the latest figures are somewhere around, don't quote me, 40, 50, 60% of the brownfields have nothing wrong with them. And the whole idea, or part of the idea of the assessment is you go in and you give the property a clean bill of health, and then that makes it easier to sell the property. So oftentimes, so the issue is, let's just say the church down the road, for example, we do an assessment of that, and they find out there's nothing wrong with it. Now somebody that might wanna invest in that property doesn't have to worry about lead or asbestos or something like that. So a very high percentage of them often come back with a clean bill of health. That helps move to the next stage, right, which is to sell the property, which is to get grants to do, positive things with the property is the idea. So yes, they have changed. It's not just about gas tanks, it's about just even a piece of property that it's just there and nothing's happening to it. That's a potential brownfield that we can assess and take a look at. And the other thing, let me mention one more thing too, is because there's another second thing. The whole idea of the brownfield too is not a penalizing program. You're not penalized. You want to go into, the idea is to help, right? The idea is to do an evaluation, not to say, gotcha, we did an assessment, you've got an issue with your property. And that's one of the things they stress up. So yes, the whole brownfield situation has changed. It's much more flexible than it was in the past. It's really exciting. We're very fortunate to be part of this. And again, all of our properties on Navajo and Hopi have been evaluated. They're on a list, and now it's just a matter of deciding which ones of those properties we think we should move forward with. And then again, as I had mentioned, we put a committee together of folks from our community. Yvonne Larson's on it, and Cindy Tafoya. They haven't met yet, but that'll be the next step. Tomorrow I'll get together a list. I'll send a list off to Stan Tech. Stan Tech will contact these various properties, and then he'll be also getting a hold of the various members from the various communities that'll be on this committee to make recommendations on the next steps. So it's really, really exciting. Again though, these are government programs, they take years. CDBG was the same thing, that we had the CDBG we're using, for example, for Sun Valley Water System, as you may recall. It's a 3-year process. It just takes a long time when you're dealing with these programs, and you've got to do everything right. You've got to follow the various procedures. It's a lot of paperwork. The good news is, in the end though, it works. In the meantime though, it's difficult to be patient because you're not seeing immediate results.
Thanks for the
Thank you,
information.
Ted. And just to mention, as far as the blight property up and down Navajo and Hopi, we're doing something about it. This property's been blight for many years. We're finally in a position where we can start doing something about it. Also, as Ted mentioned, Holbrook being recognized, I have a meeting with Senator Kelly's office come Monday. His Northern Arizona District Representative is gonna meet me here, and we're gonna drive around town and look at certain issues and things that we have going on there. So, we're getting federal attention as well as state and local, so they're coming. Okay, moving on to item 9, submissions of written petitions. Items not on the agenda, none. Chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
It's a move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. Good meeting.
When is it gonna make the motion?